Hi, today I'm going to read you a story, and the story that I'm going to read you actually has been retold by many people, and it's actually been illustrated by many people too. So I'm going to show you the two books that I do have, and I'll read the one that is written and illustrated by Jan Brett. The story we're going to read today is The Mitten. And if you look at this picture, you can tell that The Mitten is a story that is set in what season? You're right, winter. Here's the mitten in this picture right here. Here's a little kid sledding down the hill. Hopefully we'll get lots of snow this winter so that we can do those kind of activities outdoors. And then if you look around the border of that picture, there are trees with snow, and then there's some animals peeking out here too. This one is a different version retold by Jim Aylesworth and illustrated by Barbara McClintock, but this one I'm going to just set off to the side just so that you know that we have lots of versions of this book, but we are going to be reading this one right here. This is The Mitten, and this one is adapted and illustrated, as I told you already, by Jan Brett. And you can see the mitten on the cover. Do you see it? Yep, right in the middle there. And then just like our other story that we looked at, on the border of that picture of the mitten, we have a bunch of animals. And so I'd like you to pay attention in this story and see if you can figure out all the different animals that are in the story and also what order they appear. There are going to be some activities that you'll do about this story in the next couple days, and one of them is to pay attention to the order of the characters in this story, or the sequence. We've used that big word before, haven't we? The Mitten. The Mitten. Here's our dedication page, but Jan Brett likes to start telling the story ahead of time. Check this out. We've got a mitten-shaped border here with a little boy inside. Once there was a boy named Nicky who wanted his new mittens made from wool as white as the snow. At first, his grandmother, Baba, did not want to knit white mittens. Well, if you drop one in the snow, she warned, you'll never find it. But Nicky wanted snow-white mittens, and finally, Baba made them. What a nice grandma. After she finished, she said, "When you come home, first I will look to see if you are safe and sound. But then I will look to see if you still have your snow-white mittens." So off Nicky went, and it wasn't long until one of his new mittens dropped in the snow, and it was left behind. Do you see it? I'll get it a little bit closer so you can see where it is. You're right, it blends right in with the snow. Oh, she gave us a clue about the next page. A mole, tired from tunneling along, discovered the mitten and burrowed inside. It was cozy and warm and just the right size, so he decided to stay. Do you see that mole? Oh, what a snuggly home for that mole. A snowshoe rabbit came hopping by. He stopped for a moment to admire his winter coat, and it was then that he saw the mitten, and he wiggled in feet first. The mole didn't think there was room for both of them, but when he saw the rabbit's big kickers, he moved over. Now it's super snuggly, isn't it? Next, a hedgehog came snuffling along. Having spent the day looking under wet leaves for things to eat, he decided to move into the mitten and to warm himself. The mole and the rabbit were bumped and jostled, but not being ones to argue with someone covered with prickles, they made room. I don't think I would argue with them either. As soon as the hedgehog disappeared into the mitten, a big owl, attracted by the commotion, swooped down. When he decided to move in also, the mole, the rabbit, and the hedgehog grumbled. But when they saw the owl's glinty talons, they quickly let him in. Up through the snow appeared a badger. He eyed the mitten and began to climb in. The mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, and the owl were not pleased. There was no room left, but when they saw his diggers, they gave him the thumb. Look at that mitten. Oh my goodness, it's being so stretched. It started snowing, but the animals were snug in the mitten. A waft of warm steam rose in the air, and a fox trotting by stopped to investigate. Just the sight of the cozy mitten made him feel drowsy. Do you know what that means? Do you get drowsy when you're comfortable and a little bit tired? That's drowsy. The fox poked his muzzle in, that's the part of his nose, when the mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, the owl, and the badger saw his shiny teeth. They gave that fox lots of room. Do you see who's coming next? Jan Brett has been giving us a clue in the mitten all along. Have you noticed that? And you've also been able to see what Nicky has been doing while he's been playing out in the snow. A great bear lumbered by. He spied the mitten all plumped up. Not being one to be left out in the cold, he began to nose his way in. The animals were packed in as tightly as could be. But what animal would argue with a bear? Not me. The mitten swelled and stretched. It was pulled and bulged to many times its size, but Baba's good knitting held fast. Along came a meadow mouse, no bigger than an acorn. She wriggled into one space left and made herself comfortable on top of the great bear's nose. You see the little mouse? Oh, you can also see Nicky. He's figuring it out. He doesn't have both mittens. The bear, tickled by the mouse's whiskers, gave an enormous sneeze. You do a big sneeze. Just like that. Achoo! The force of the sneeze shot the mitten up into the sky and scattered the animals in all directions. Oh my goodness. On his way home, Nicky saw a white shape in the distance. It was the lost mitten silhouetted against the blue sky. Do you see it? It must be up in the sky because of that giant sneeze. As he ran to catch his snow-white mitten, he saw Baba's face in the window. First, she looked to see if he was safe and sound, and then she saw that he still had his new mittens. Quite by chance, I think. Now look at this last picture of Baba and Nicky. Look at her look at that mitten and wonder what happened. I don't think Nicky knows, but we know what happened in the mitten. If you need to rewatch this so that you can see the order of the animals in the story, then go ahead and do that. You'll need to do that for one of the activities. I hope you enjoyed the mitten, and I hope you enjoy reading other versions of it as well.